Hi everyone, this PowerPoint will be about the military applications of drone use. My name is Eric Bashta. So the first thing we'll talk about is military drone uses. They provide quite a bit of capability. First thing being surveillance. Obviously the surveillance that they provide is critical to the mission on the ground with respect to military and troop movement. They can provide improved intelligence, and that's mainly because they can stay airborne for extended periods of time, and they could frequently provide information that would be difficult, if not impossible, to get with anything other than satellite type operations. They can perform reconnaissance. Now, this is a key to a lot of the aspects of combat and of the military with respect to the different wars that we are currently involved in. That reconnaissance is used then in turn to designate high priority targets and then essentially eliminate those targets with hopefully little if no collateral damage. And then they're also used for both base and troop security. Base security is key. Before to have any type of security over a base, it would have required possibly satellite monitoring or even airborne manned aircraft. In this case, you can get a drone up above a base and provide whatever security need be. And then overall troop security, that would more or less be when troops are just outside of a perimeter or in a combat zone or hot zone where they're going to need some overhead support without necessarily having an actual aircraft. Drone uses also provide good video imagery, still photo documentation, and then the different cameras that they use obviously are anything from infrared to just your basic still photo cameras and thermal imaging and whatnot. So as we've spoken before, they do have the ability for target acquisition and then ultimately to be able to strike. And with respect to the striking of enemy troops or enemy combatants, the first ever Hellfire missile that was fired from a Predator took place back in October, or took place on October 7th of 2001. And that's pretty much set the stage for military drone use and their adaptability. Next, we're going to talk about the politics of drone use. And the reason that we talk about this is because there's many that do believe that drone use violates your basic societal norms or decency. Drones tend to create unnecessary fear amongst civilian populations, at least in those populations that are subject to drone strikes. And then there's also the politics of, or belief of, drones causing too much collateral damage in the work that they do. There's also the belief that drones are outright illegal or questionable under different rules of war or even under the Geneva Convention. And then there's also the establishment of a precedence for others to attack either us or other nations with the same means. All of these different things play into the politics of drones, whether people should use them, whether the U.S. should continue their use. The U.S. is the predominant user of drones. However, we are not the only ones who currently use drones. The Israelis back in the 1980s made drone use really a prevalent tool for wartime and peacetime, and they were rather successful in doing so. Pros and cons. So here we'll start with the pros of drone use, and most of these are readily identifiable, but we'll hit on a few of the different things that, the benefits I should say, of drone use in the military specifically. So one of the big things is better target discrimination and identification. When you have a manned aircraft overhead, discriminating targets or identifying specific targets is a lot more difficult. And that can be seen in past wars where friendly fire has taken its toll on American or Allied troops. So with a drone above, it can stay above much longer. Um, you don't have to worry so much about it being shot down because it's unmanned, and because it can stay above in the air, it can discriminate and identify better and take time to identify potential targets. Again, it's got a maximized time period that it can remain over a target at various altitudes. It has the surveillance capabilities of both video and photography, which we previously spoke of. And overall, it reduces loss of life for both the US and Allied troops anytime drones are used in a particular combat zone. And then most would argue that are in support of drones that it reduces the overall collateral damage. With the use of drones, the need for carpet bombing or specific large scale attacks becomes unnecessary as drones are more specific to independent targets. Continuing with the cons of drone use, many believe that there's an increase in negative sentiment towards the United States and those countries that use drones for the purpose of eliminating specific targets. Those same people would argue that there's an increased loss of life as well as additional collateral damage. And that is mainly because of the civilian fatalities that we see on occasion. But in comparison to dropping large-scale bombs or taking out entire areas, those collateral damages would be hard to argue against. Other cons is there's a tendency for drones to remove the consciousness that one would typically have from eliminating a target or from killing a target. And when you look at this in comparison to a fighter jet pilot actually seeing a target, making the decision to go at the target or remove the target, it's a lot different from somebody sitting back in a command base, sometimes hundreds, if not thousands of miles away, making those very same decisions, in a sense, from a video game aspect of creating the same type of chaos. And then there's also a concern that the use of drones or different platforms allow for assassination style hits by outside governments. And that's obviously of the concern for not only us in the US using drones to eliminate specific targets, but also the potential use by other nations in the future to use that same type of technology against us or against our elected officials. So in conclusion, there's many things that the drone is responsible for. Military drones are used every day in this country to save American lives. Drones allow for the adaptation of varying types of conflicts. And when I say that, I'm talking in respect to, let's say, a city conflict as we see in Afghanistan, Iraq, versus the mechanized conflict that we saw so long ago out in Iraq when we used tanks and artillery and whatnot. So the drones allow for us to really determine who that target is, specify that target, and eliminate just that target. That allows for a reduced amount of collateral damage. And another positive of drone use is the airborne time that a drone can remain overhead. Doing so allows for a better troop movement, better troop security, and it also allows for better target acquisition and identification. Hopefully, this will reduce the number of peaceful deaths and friendly fire incidents that take place. And then lastly, which we spoke of a little bit, is just the individual strikes that drones can make versus the overall, carpet bombing that we've seen in past wars, or just larger explosives that are dropped that maybe kill a target, but also kill many civilian lives as well. So overall, drone use, I think, is a fantastic asset with respect to the military. It's not something that was around very prevalent. When I was in the military back in 89 through 94, we would have definitely been a great technology to see more of. But it's definitely increased. It's going to continue to increase. And my overall support of a drone program, regardless of the disconnect that operators have in their dealings with operating these drones, I still think is a valuable asset and will continue to be for many years to come. Hope you liked the PowerPoint presentation, and thank you very much.